I want to talk about something simple today, and also something that turns out to be surprisingly complicated: love. Most of us grow up hearing that love is the most important thing in the world. But at the same time, we're also taught a lot of rules about it: who deserves it, who doesn't, what it should look like, when it should be given, and when it should be taken away. And somewhere along the way, something interesting happens. Love starts getting all of these little conditions attached to it, tiny qualifications, little invisible footnotes that say, love, but only if. And that's what I mean when I talk about love with an asterisk. Hi, loves. Welcome back to Amy's View Unscripted. I'm Amy, and this is Life in Motion, where we grow with intention, connect with purpose, and rise to meet our potential, moving the whole world forward by becoming who we're meant to be. Today, I want to talk about something that sits at the center of my philosophy: the idea that love was never meant to come with any conditions attached. Those tiny little footnotes that say love, but only if. The asterisk is the fine print that we quietly attach to love. I love you, but only if you agree with me. I love you, but only if you think the way I think you should. I love you, but only if you stay the same. And once those conditions appear, something subtle shifts. Love, slowly but surely, becomes transactional. Approval when we behave the right way, and distance when we don't. But love was never meant to be something we constantly earn or lose. Love, at its best, recognizes the humanity in someone, even when we disagree with them. And that doesn't mean abandoning your own values. It doesn't mean pretending harmful ideas are harmless. There are people in the world whose beliefs or actions we may strongly oppose. We don't have to embrace those beliefs. We don't even have to welcome those behaviors into our lives. But we can still decide who we are. We can still move through the world with integrity and with compassion and with a kind of character that refuses to become smaller just because someone else has. Because the healthiest love, the kind that actually changes the world, isn't love with a long list of fine print. It's something much simpler than that. Love without the asterisk. The truth is, most of us were never really shown what that kind of love looks like in practice. What many of us experienced growing up wasn't unconditional love. It was something closer to conditional acceptance. Approval when we behaved the right way, and distance when we didn't. And over time, that teaches us something powerful: that love can be withdrawn, that belonging can be revoked, and that acceptance can disappear the moment we step outside someone else's expectations. And when people grow up believing that, well, we start living defensively, trying to earn love, trying not to lose it, trying to shape ourselves around what other people expect from us. Not because we're weak, but because we're human. Everyone wants to belong. Everyone wants to know that they're seen, that they matter, and that they won't be discarded the moment that they become complicated. But love that has to be constantly earned starts to feel less like love and more like approval. And approval is a fragile thing. It changes depending on circumstances, depending on expectations, and depending on how well someone fits into the picture that we've created of them. Love moves differently than that. It begins from a deeper place, from the recognition that every human being carries inherent worth. Not perfect worth, not earned worth, just worth. But when love becomes conditional, something else tends to follow that. People start trying to control outcomes. They start building systems that decide who belongs and who doesn't. Sometimes those systems take the form of doctrine, religious doctrine, cultural doctrine, political doctrine, rules about who deserves dignity, rules about who must change in order to be accepted, rules about whose lives are considered valid. And once love becomes conditional in that way, it becomes very easy to justify controlling other people's lives in the name of being right. But love without the asterisk moves differently than that. It begins from a much simpler place. It begins from the recognition that dignity isn't something we grant to one another conditionally. It's just something we recognize. And once you begin to see people that way, something else shifts. Your relationships change. The way you move through the world changes. Because love without the asterisk stops shrinking the circle of who deserves dignity. And it begins to widen it. And widening that circle shows up most clearly in how we treat the people closest to us. Our partners, our families, our friends. But it becomes even more visible in harder moments. When someone disappoints us, when someone makes mistakes, when someone reveals parts of themselves that we didn't expect. Because the truth is, every human being is more complicated than a single moment in their story. More complicated than a single opinion, more complicated than a single mistake. And when love stops demanding perfection, something interesting happens. It becomes steadier and more resilient, and it isn't shaken away when life gets messy. It isn't dependent on everything going right. It's rooted somewhere deeper than circumstance. And maybe that's part of what the world is wrestling with right now. We're living in a moment where disagreement feels louder than it ever has, where people are constantly being sorted into categories: us and them, right and wrong, deserving and undeserving. And the moment we start deciding who is worthy of empathy and who isn't, love starts shrinking again. And the world becomes smaller with it. Love without the asterisk asks something different of us. It asks us to hold on to our humanity, even when the world becomes harsh. To keep our character intact, even when others abandon theirs. To refuse the idea that compassion disappears the moment disagreement appears. Not because that's easy, but because it's one of the ways love remains strong. Love without the asterisk isn't fragile. It doesn't collapse when life becomes complicated. It doesn't disappear the moment someone becomes imperfect, because it recognizes something deeper than that. That every human being is more than the worst moment in their story. And when we begin to understand love this way, it changes how we move through the world. And that is part of living a life in motion. If this idea resonates with you, if you've ever felt that tension between love and conditions, between dignity and approval, then that's exactly the conversation I explore much more deeply in my book, Love Without the Asterisk. It's where I take this philosophy and really build it out, carefully, thoughtfully, and explore what it might look like to build our lives, our relationships, and even our communities on that foundation. You can find the link in the comments. And if today's conversation meant something to you, take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who might appreciate it too. Because the more we talk about ideas like this, the more room we make for them in the world. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll see you next time.